Hello everyone, I'm Johanna Stewart and welcome back to Más Allá de Tech, or Beyond Tech, where we talk about student life. In this episode, I'll be exploring how ALPFA, the Association of Latino Professionals for America, impacts Hispanic students here at Georgia Tech. This is an organization that empowers Latino leaders in all fields, not just business, and plays a key role in fostering a strong sense of community among Hispanic students in college. But beyond its mission of professional development, I was curious about something much deeper. How does ALPFA recognize and celebrate the cultural diversity within the Hispanic community itself? With over 20 different countries represented under the same term, Latino or Hispanic, how does ALPFA create a space for everyone's unique background? After nearly a year in college, I've come to realize how much students crave connections to their roots, especially when they're far from home. For Latin American students, finding that cultural comfort can significantly change how they experience college. That's one of the reasons why I chose to join ALPFA as a Hispanic student myself. I believe that this topic matters because it sheds light onto the diversity that exists within the Hispanic community itself and just how important it is to recognize this in order to make an authentic community. To answer this question, I relied on multiple sources. First-hand experiences attending ALPFA events, interviews that I conducted with ALPFA members, as well as secondary sources to support my claims. But before we dive into that, let's take a moment to understand the importance of cultural identity in student organizations. College life can be difficult, especially when you come from a different background. As cultural diversity on campuses continues to grow, so does the need for spaces that support students emotionally and socially. A 2024 study published in Learning and Instruction found that an education that embraces intercultural understanding positively affected a student's life satisfaction, sense of purpose in the college, how they felt, and most importantly, how they felt that they belonged in the school. Similarly, a 2020 article published by the University of Exeter states that the cultural organizations help foster a deeper sense of belonging and adapt to college. However, many academic and institutional studies, including the ones mentioned, still tend to group all Hispanics into a single cultural category, overlooking key distinctions among subgroups. While the Hispanic group all fall under this term because we speak Spanish, the traditions, even the language and the socioeconomic situations vary significantly from subgroup to subgroup, which can affect how each member from the community interacts and feels in their college life. What stood out to me the most is how the Spanish language, which is the main common thread and why we're called Hispanics, varies. For example, the Spanish spoken in Argentina differs noticeably from that spoken in Puerto Rico, from their accents to their vocabulary, and it is important to recognize these distinctions in order to create an inclusive environment that can genuinely reflect and support the diversity within the Latino community. To gain more perspectives, I decided to talk to a lot of members from ALPFA. Specifically, I think it's important that we hear to what my friend Christopher Guzman, a Guatemalan student and ALPFA member, has to say.
Honestly, being one of the only Guatemalans here, me and my roommate, it can be kind of hard to really feel like our culture is fully represented. There is so much that makes Guatemala unique, and sometimes that gets lost in the broader Latino label. But what I've really appreciated about ALPFA is that they recognize our differences. I think they actually make space for the difference. Like during the spring potluck, everyone brought food from their own countries, and it was such a cool way to celebrate where we come from. I think ALPFA does a great job of recognizing that even though we are all Hispanic, we each have a different story, and somehow that brings us closer. It's like they erase those cultural boundaries a bit while still letting us honor them.
His answer reflected the common struggle of cultural underrepresentation that smaller Hispanic subgroups like Guatemalans face within larger Hispanic groups. While the Hispanic label helps bring us together, it can also unintentionally flatten the unique identities that we each carry from our own cultures. However, he also suggests that ALPFA acknowledges these different backgrounds and therefore it resists the homogenization of the Hispanic cultures. The spring potluck that Christopher mentioned was one of the many bonding events that ALPFA organizes. At the event, members were invited to bring a traditional dish from their home country. I made and shared an arroz con leche, but also got to try Venezuelan arepas, Guatemalan tamales, and Puerto Rican arroz con gandules. Events like this create a safe space for cultural exchange and allow students to proudly represent their countries without feeling that like they need to fit in to one version of being Latino. It also leads to connections built based on curiosity and empathy that are created on each member rather than on assumptions. What really struck me through this experience is that Alpha doesn't promote one version of Hispanos. Instead, it opens the door for every member to bring their culture to the table, sometimes quite literally. And it's not only during these events. Through their general body meetings, their leadership roles, and their workshops they organize for each member, there's a constant encouragement to speak about your individual experience as a college student, where you're from, how you grew up, and what it is that you value. According to a report by Pew Research Center, over 40% of US Latinos say that their country of origin is just as important to their identity as being Latino or American. Recognizing this is key for any organization that is aiming to be truly inclusive, and it seems like Alpha is on the right path. In conclusion, Alpha at Georgia Tech does more than support Hispanic students in their professional and academic journeys. It also gives them a platform to share who they are, both personally and culturally, through inclusive events like potlucks and by promoting their individual storytelling. Alpha fosters a community where diversity is not only accepted, but celebrated. Thanks to this research project, I've realized how Alpha is more than just a professional organization, but also a cultural home. And it makes me really excited about what student groups can accomplish when they actively include all the voices and allow everyone's identity to shine through. Thank you so much for listening to Más Allá de Tech. I hope this conversation helps us all appreciate the diversity that exists within our own communities, no matter how big, no matter how small, and encourages us to create more inclusive spaces, one story at a time. Thank you.